class. Please leave me, please. In a moment of silence, I will let you try. I don't want to hear what I should or I shouldn't do. Why they always define. See, all my emotions are liars. All my emotions are violent. They don't want freedom to find me. Mention a name and everybody riots. That's why I'm checking my vitals. They keep on working, but I don't. Breathing don't mean you're alive, so I bang up all of my trash and walk out on my title. Positive thoughts are my rivals. I'm trying to be on their side though. Should I feel comfortable? I don't. Like should I feel suicidal? This year I might do something different, like talking to demons. I'm looking for. I'm searching for. I'm looking for. I just want. I'm looking for. I'm searching for. All right. Good morning. All right. I'm using my old laptop this morning, which means, at any moment, it might turn off on us and class will be all done. We'll see how it goes. Thanks for sharing your favorite children's books from when you were little with me. Those are always those are fun to see. I love books. I love to read. I love children's books. So it's always fun to just get an idea of, what books people like. So here's the plan for today. We are going to review our signs. We have just 2 small sections to finish up related to development of language in infants and toddlers. It won't take us long at all. So just a couple more PowerPoint slides. You can finish up your guided notes. Hopefully, I forgot to print mine out. So hopefully we touch on everything. We're going to do a quick activity sometime here just to help us review some of the vocabulary that we have been talking about since the beginning of the semester. I feel like, the topics kind of go by, and so I like to just circle back and make sure you feel confident about just some of the language associated with this course, because it shows up later on quizzes and the final exam. So I started pulling out some of our review activities, and that's probably it for today. So should be quick and painless, right? So, all right, I'm going to share my screen with you. I cannot believe how many of you like green eggs and ham. I just think that's funny because, I don't even remember. I think I read Green Eggs and Ham to Elliot once. So, I've not heard of a couple of these. Alrighty. So let me pull up our PowerPoint. Well, shoot, it's not there as a choice, so hold on just a moment. You guys feel like you're getting used to all these online classes. Are all your classes online? Like all of them? Wow, that's a lot of time sitting in front of a screen, isn't it? I don't know how you do it. I attended a conference on Friday last week, and the conference, why is my PowerPoint not pulling up? Come on. The conference was 4.5 hours. Like, you just sat, over Zoom for 4.5 hours. And it was not fun. Like, it was just really hard to sit there for that many hours and just sit there. I just wanted to share, I have a little bit of empathy for you because they kept putting us in little breakout groups, which, by the way, we're going to do today just so you can prepare yourselves. And so I was put in these little breakout groups with these random strangers I didn't know which is just not my thing. Like, I am so introverted by nature. I don't mind working in groups that I'm familiar with, but like I had to keep going into like different groups with all of these strangers and have discussions, and I found it really anxiety producing. So I thought I'd share some of that with you today, but I promise the activity we're doing is really easy. But it'll break up our class a little bit. Okay, let's see. Why won't my screen sharing work, you guys? What is the problem? All right, third time's a charm. There it is. Okay. So, like I said, we're finishing up our topic on language development in infants and toddlers. We just have to cover just a couple more aspects of language knowledge. I always like the next week, because next week we actually get to talk about like strategies and interventions, like what we can actually do to facilitate and foster language growth, which is totally more of my jam. Like, that's what I love to do every day. So hopefully that'll be a little more fun. All right. Let me skip to where we're at. There we go. Okay, let's take a look at these signs and go through them to practice, and then we will hop into the notes. So, okay, on the left, we'll start with the easy ones. More. Yeah, great. Cookie. Nice. Help. Helping that fist up. Yep. Help. Open. Open's like opening a door. Stop. Yeah. Wait. Yeah, wait. Play. 2-letter Y's. Yep. All done. All right. What about eat? Bathroom. Yeah, that's an important one. Jump. Yes. Train. Great. Friend. Friends, this one. Yep. Movie. Yep, making that movie screen. Blocks. Great. Yep, there's blocks. Great. You guys are great at those. Okay, let's look at the 5 new ones. These were pretty easy. Car. You got it. Good morning. Ball. Yep. Shoes. Do you remember that one? Yeah, it's like, I don't know, they tell you you're supposed to remember like clicking your heels together. I don't know why. What about mom? Mom's down low, like a tied bonnet, and dad is up high, like wearing a hat. Yeah? All right. You guys are doing great. You're going to have so many of these by the end. And if you have the opportunity to work in a preschool with some kiddos that maybe have language delays, these will be really, really useful. And then at some point, if you have kids of your own, these are just really great signs to use as their language is emerging. So, all right. So let me go ahead and go through our last few notes that we need to cover. And then, like I said, I just have a quick review activity for us to do. So if you remember, morphemes are those tiny, tiny, tiny little units of language. The way that your textbook is set up, if you haven't noticed, is that every time they introduce a new stage of language development, they go through all 5 of those aspects of language knowledge. So they tell you this is what you should expect for a preschooler with phonological and pragmatic and morphemic and semantic and syntactic knowledge. And so every chapter cadence is kind of the same. And I think that's a little bit funny because when you think of morphemic development, I was like, well, what are they going to say related to infants? Because, well, infants are not using morphemes yet, right? They're, but essentially just the idea here is that a really, really, really little baby is starting to sort out all the sounds And so they will start to, make distinctions between all of those different free and bound morphemes, because they will start to associate some meaning with some of those things. For example, the example they give in your textbook, which I thought was a good one, was that if a parent tells a young child, you can have one cookie, versus you can have the cookies, those carry different meaning, obviously. And so they start to kind of hone in on those, the significance of those morphemes. So while they're not using them, obviously, they're picking them up and they're just listening to the speech of others. So for an infant, they're just listening and taking in all of our morphemes. For a toddler, toddlers do begin to use some free and bound morphemes where they will start to use plurals pretty early on. They will start using verb tenses, sometimes not accurately, but they will start using verb tense. And they'll also start using that possessive. It's mommy's car. It's daddy's keys. And so those are the morphemes that you see emerge kind of in toddlerhood. They're not some of the more complex ones, like prefixes and suffixes that change meaning. It's typically just learning about some of the verb tenses and the plurals. So that's what you need to know about morphemes. Right, pragmatic knowledge. This is actually really a significant area of language, because pragmatic language, again, is that social aspect of language. And I think maybe I consider it, so significant because most of the children that I work with have autism. And so this is that area of language development that is sometimes delayed, or sometimes when a child is showing early signs of autism, this is where it is most likely to show up. And so this is just a kind of an interest area to me because I recognize that this is kind of that aspect of language knowledge that can really determine if a child might receive that kind of diagnosis. So basically, what you have to know is that infants really, really early, as early as 6 or 7 months old, start to use gestures. They start to use motions to communicate intent. So an infant at 7 or 8 months old will start holding up objects. They'll start, lifting objects for the purpose of sharing that with another person. So the point of holding up the object is to show mommy or show daddy what I have, right? And so it's pragmatic because the child isn't going to pick up and show an object to nobody. This type of language development actually has intent. Like, I want you to see what I have. And so they will begin showing objects to others. And so that's a pretty significant milestone because it requires that joint attention. It requires an awareness that I want another person to know that I'm trying to talk to them or get their attention. Between 9 and 12 months, we see more pointing and reaching. You'll start, seeing a young child reach if they see something on the counter that they want. They'll start reaching for that. They will begin pointing to share reference. So if they see a dog on a leash outside, they might point to let you know, hey, look at that. Look what I see. And so these pragmatic gestures are really, really significant developmental milestones. And if these are not emerging, this is one of those critical red flags. If I have a young child who is not using gestures by 1 year old, we need to beyond that and trying to determine like what could be the cause and if further evaluation is needed. So I'm going to show you a couple just quick videos to share with you just about kind of this gesture development. This one's just it's like a minute long video on gestures.
If you have a young child, you're probably looking forward to hearing his first words. But before he learns to talk, he needs to learn how to send messages without words. These early messages are sent with sounds and gestures. When babies start babbling, it's just for fun as they play around with making sounds. Eventually, they figure out how to get our attention with these sounds. And it's exciting when young children start to use gestures, because gestures show us that they are trying to tell us something. You might see your child raise her arms to get up, or give you an object to ask you to play. She might also start to wave hello and goodbye. These are all gestures that send us a specific message. When children start to point, it's even easier to figure out their message because they can show us exactly what they want or what's caught their attention. And it's an important step when they start to use gestures and sounds together. This shows us that they can do two things at the same time to get their message across. Your child's sounds and gestures are the building blocks for first words because they give your child a way to send messages and they tell us what your child wants to talk about. Every time you use words that match what you think your child is telling you, he hears the words that go with his message. And the more often your child hears the words that go with her message, the closer she is to using her first words.
Right. So again, gestures are just a really significant milestone, and it's something that sometimes we really see lacking in young preschoolers who have some language delays or possibly characteristics of an autism spectrum disorder. So it's just something to know that it's a really critical part of language development. Something else that emerges kind of during this phase is that not only are they going to be using gestures that are kind of consistent, like the pointing or the reaching for up, but many young infants will begin using symbolic gestures. Symbolic gestures are those that essentially the child kind of invents to relate to specific things. So, you may or may not have taught the child the formal sign for car, but maybe because they've seen you driving, maybe they start using that gesture to relate to a specific item like playing with toy cars. So a symbolic gesture is one that the child creates that refers to a specific object or activity. And I found this video that's really a great example of this young child. He did have a language delay, but it shows his development of symbolic gestures. So I'm going to share that with you real quick. Oops. Except I have to start the video. Yes.
Christmas tree, folding chair. Yeah, it was
every horse I know. Truckle Joe.
You like cleaning up, don't you?
The cleaners vacuum. And they have sprayers for cleaning up.
Front loaders, lifters, bulldozers, pushers, clamshell cranes, dig deep holes, and wrecking balls knock down old buildings. Cement mixer mixes wet cement, the round and round. Working on here.
Plug it in.
Plug it in. And then what do we do? Turn it on. What else do we plug in? The computer. Plug in the computer and run. Hair dryer. That's right. Plug it in. Yeah! Plug in the hair dryer.
What about brushing your teeth?
And rose lotion. Before that, you get your dress. What are the kitties doing right now?
Sleeping. What are they eating? Kale. Who's the king? You are.
So that video was just an exceptionally good example of what I mean by symbolic gestures. Those were not true signs, like he was not using formal American Sign Language, but he'd obviously developed like a pretty extensive repertoire of symbolic gestures, gestures that referred to things. We didn't hear him using any words yet. So this is a pretty significant, again, milestone in kind of that pragmatic skill development repertoire that we're looking for, because the intent is very much to share information with another person. And if a child's not doing that, obviously, we want to look into as to why. So what's happening here is this dialogic turn-taking. And that just essentially refers to sort of the back and forth communication that's going on, these communication loops or conversational circles that are happening. It's not true conversation yet. It's not like the parent asks a question and the child replies. It's really just a back and forth interaction where the child initiates an interaction and the parent responds, and then the child responds, and then the parent responds. So that's dialogic turn-taking. So what we see as children grow into toddlerhood is that they also they develop more of those symbolic gestures. They also begin to develop some pragmatic language that does use words because they begin to use routine expressions. They start to learn that, oh, when somebody comes into the room, you say hi. And when daddy leaves for work, I should say bye-bye. And so, or they will, pick up a toy phone or pick up mommy's phone and they'll pretend to talk on the phone. And then at the end of the conversation, they'll say bye-bye or something like that. So they start to learn some of these social behaviors of our language. They start to learn some of the pragmatic things that we do in specific situations or in specific social circumstances. So it's things like saying hi, saying bye-bye. I can't think of others that come to mind right now. But anyway, we also see toddlers begin to engage in verbal conversation. So when a child's language begins to emerge, then I can move into a more formal conversation where I ask a question and you respond. I ask, what is it? And you tell me it's a truck. And I ask, what shape is it? And you tell me it's a circle. So we start to engage in conversations that look more like true conversations. And another critical feature of developing pragmatic language here are the literacy interactions that begin to happen. So the child kind of begins to understand his role as a listener, and that he begins to understand sort of the cadence of storybook reading, that you're going to read a page and then you're going to pause and I can help turn the pages, or you might ask me to point to a picture on the book. And so those literacy related interactions really foster a lot of pragmatic skill development as well, because there's sort of a routine that's an embedded pragmatic knowledge as a part of storybook reading, because it has this particular manner. I'm supposed to listen. I'm supposed to, point to things. And there's a certain way that we go about, reading books together. So that's just an important feature or skill that really begins to develop here as far as this pragmatic domain in toddlerhood. So before we actually talk about this, which again we've kind of visited before, I'm going to have you do a quick activity to review just some of these concepts. I feel like we've thrown in so many different so much new terminology, or maybe it's not necessarily new, but maybe it's less familiar. It's not your everyday vocabulary. So on Canvas, there is an activity under today's module that looks like this. I'll pull it up on the screen in just a moment as well. So what I'm going to do in just a minute is I'm going to send you off into those little breakout rooms in little groups, which I know y'all love, but I promise this won't be too painful. Typically, when we do this activity in class, these are on cardstock. I give you scissors, we cut them out, and we actually play a matching game. Well, I can't quite figure out how to be so creative over Zoom, so instead, you just have a piece of paper that looks like this. And what you're going to do is, with your group, you're just going to work on identifying the corresponding matching cards. So there's vocabulary words, and then somewhere on the page there are also corresponding definitions. So if you're able to, you might want to print this out so that you can write on them to determine which are matches. Or you may just want to pull up the file. It's a Word document, and you can literally just list, okay, this one is letter A and it matches this, whatever, letter A, however you want to do it. But it's just a way for us to do a quick check and review some of the concepts that we have talked through over the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to pull it up for you. If you want to take a screenshot instead of pulling it off of Canvas, let's see. Maybe you can do that. If I can get the whole thing on the screen. Hold on. Let's see. Need it smaller, don't I? All right. So I have not done this too many times before, where I send you into these little breakout rooms, but let's give it a try. So go ahead and just work together and see if you can come up with the words and their corresponding definitions, and then we'll come back together and go over it. And I did do some cutting and pasting, so hopefully I didn't mess things up. All right. Let's see, there are 27 of you, so let's do... And there we go. All right. In just a minute, it's going to magically apparate you into your little breakout rooms. We'll just work on this for 6 or 7 minutes, and then I'll pull us all back together, and we will go ahead and review it. So I will see you in a couple of minutes. Open all rooms. All right, let's see if this works.
Hello.
Hi.
So how are you guys just pulling it from the dock?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. So are you matching that with like pragmatic or phonological for like object permanence or is that like what we're supposed to do?
You're supposed to match them up.
Object permanent.
Oh, I was muted. But object permanence is like when you know something is there even when you can't see it, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, so there's one that says an object continues to exist even when out of sight.
Okay, so
It's like in the second row. Or the second column.
yeah. Pragmatic. Oh, I see it. No, that took me a minute. Okay.
Is neurolinguistics the study of language in the brain?
I think so. Neuro is for brain, so I'm assuming.
Yeah. Those are both on the last row. Column. I keep saying row.
I think for zone of proximal development, it's two down from that. The what a child can accomplish alone and what it can accomplish with adult help.
Wait, what is that one? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
The zone of proximal development.
I'm just practicing like apparating in and out, and I feel kind of like Harry Potter when I do it. So. It's so weird. All right, is it going okay, you guys?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, thanks.
I'm sorry, guys. I feel like absolute garbage.
Okay, you're good. I think we're all struggling.
When did you say was zone of proximal development?
Two down from that what a child can accomplish alone and what it can accomplish with adult.
That's what I thought, but I was not 100% perfect.
And then there's overgeneralization, and then that would go with child assumes a word follows a regular pattern.
Is semantics, is that, is that the smallest unit of language?
I don't know.
I thought that
Or
was
is that morphine?
I thought that was more.
I was thinking of morphine, too. Okay, so I was...
Because semantics is like is that like grammar?
I think so. And then I think the two next to each other, syntactic knowledge and words can be combined into meaningful sentences. I think those two go together. Because I know syntax is about the sentence structure.
Mm-hmm. Or are semantics, word meaning, and vocabulary.
Yeah, that's semantics. Syntactic is the
That's the grammar part.
Yeah.
Syntax and grammar.
Would receptive language be language a person is able to comprehend? Like, I know it's like reading and like listening and stuff, but
A language person. That sounds about right.
Okay, I don't know if we did this one, but is overgeneralization the child assumes a word follows a regular pattern? Okay.
is phonological awareness of distinct speech sounds?
Yes.
So there's pragmatics and then pragmatic language.
Yeah, I don't know the difference.
Yeah,
That's
I
not-
don't either.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're going over this though, right?
Yes. I'm just gonna go back to
Okay.
this.
Just waiting for everybody to come back. Alrighty. So again, this was just a quick way for us to revisit all of these concepts and terms that we've talked about over the last couple of weeks. So we're just going to zip through it and go through and correct your paper. Obviously, pragmatic language is on there twice. Saw that while I was doing mine. But I'm just going to ask you one of the terms, and if somebody will read the definition, that would be fantastic. So the first one up there on the top left, object permanence. Which one does that refer to?
An object used to exist even when out of sight.
Yep. One of those developmental milestones for young infants is we look for, do they have object permanence? If we hide a toy under a blanket, do they know the object is still there? The next one, so there were two. There was pragmatic language and pragmatics. Those are exactly the same thing. So which two corresponded with pragmatic knowledge?
The knowledge of different ways in which language is used in different settings.
Yep, and the other one?
Language is used differently in different social situations.
Yeah. Pragmatic language just refers to our social communication. So that aspect of our language development that involves relating to other people. What about the zone of proximal development? That's from one of the theorists we talked about, and you've probably heard it in other classes.
What a child can accomplish alone and what he can accomplish with adult help.
Yep, exactly. All right, neurolinguistics.
The study of language in the brain.
Yep, you got it. Let's see. Let's go to the second row. The child says "ba" while pointing to a ball, and teacher gives the ball. What is the child doing? A guess?
Approximations.
Approximations. He's approximating the correct word. He's not able to say the full word yet, so he's giving us an approximation. Phonological. That's one of those 5 aspects of language knowledge. Phonological. What does that refer to? I can't find it on my page. Oh, there it is. When a child develops phonological language.
Is it the awareness of distinctive speech sounds?
Yeah, that's the one that's really related to the ability to produce speech. Is our phonological language. Down there in the third row, which term refers to the language a person is able to comprehend?
Receptive.
Yep. Listening language is receptive language. You got it. A really important skill for infants and toddlers is development of jointly focusing on an object or event. So that's sharing my awareness of an object with another person. What's that?
Shared reference.
Yep, shared reference. Exactly. Let's see. Semantics. What does semantics refer to?
Was that like the word meaning and vocabulary?
Semantics is just vocabulary. Yep. Let's see. What about, I think we've captured quite a few of them. What about overgeneralization?
A child assumes a word follows a regular pattern.
Yeah. It's when a child makes an error because they assume that you change the verb tense the same way. So it's an overgeneralization is that they overgeneralize a rule in language. Let's see. What about oral language? Which one did you have corresponding to that?
Includes speaking and writing.
Yep, oral language includes speaking and writing. And then the smallest unit of meaning in language.
Morpheme.
And then I think the only one we didn't touch on was syntax, syntactic knowledge or syntax and grammar. And that one obviously goes along with how words can be combined together to form meaningful sentences. So I think we got them all. So you will probably want to hang on to this, tuck this away. It will just help you out on subsequent quizzes and exams and all of those things. And it's just a good way to practice some of that terminology that comes along with this course. So let's see. All right. So we are wrapping up kind of our discussion about what language development looks like for infants and toddlers. This is obviously, the most critical couple years of language acquisition. So we often revisit these key interaction patterns. Basically, these are just the things that are absolutely critical during this stage of development. So let me just go through these quickly, and then I will let you know what you have to do for the week ahead, and we will wrap up for today. So again, and we've talked about these before, it's really critical that for early communication to develop, eye contact is considered a significant part of language acquisition. It's a core piece of that pragmatic skills, but language is essentially social, and so eye contact has a pretty significant role. We also really look for ways to teach and make sure the child is developing joint attention or shared reference, that when I look out the window, the child's gaze also follows, because that's joint attention. We're sharing our attention on the same object. Over time, when the teacher is reading a story and I turn to look at her reading and all my peers turn and look at her reading the story, that shared reference, we're all referencing the same object. And then we want to start seeing those communication loops. Those are those circles of conversation where the child vocalizes and the adult responds, and then the child vocalizes again and the adult responds. So that's a communication loop. It's just that back and forth looping of initiations and responses. Obviously, for these little ones, the focus is on developing meaning. They come into the world without, any semantic knowledge, obviously, and so it's important for us to really focus on development of vocabulary and semantics by labeling things around them, by having opportunities to just learn the names of things. We mentioned this earlier, but adult responsiveness is absolutely critical. If I don't respond to an infant's attempts at communication, they will decrease their likelihood to continue to communicate. If I cry and nobody picks me up, crying doesn't ultimately result in getting my needs met. If I say mama, 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 and nobody ever responds by letting me know that's associated with my mother's name, I'm not going to learn that. So adult responsiveness is obviously critical. These are probably the most critical years for language development. Really, this the birth to 5 period is absolutely crucial for language acquisition. But you'll see a lot of variation as to when kids hit certain developmental milestones. I remember right after Elliot was born, I was so paranoid about him hitting some of those early developmental milestones. And at first, he didn't make very good eye contact. And I remember he was 4 weeks old and 6 weeks old, and he still wasn't making good eye contact. And it was one of those, critical features that you're supposed to expect around that age. And I was very concerned that he wasn't developing eye contact. Eventually he did, and that was not an issue. But there's just a lot of variation between when children sometimes hit different developmental milestones for any number of given reasons. So, like I said, we've kind of covered now, these are all of the things to expect. What we get to do next week is actually talk about, okay, what do I do about it as a teacher or an early intervention specialist, or someone working directly with young children? How do I facilitate language development? How can I help improve their development of these skills? So let's take a look at what's coming up this week. You will want to make sure to upload your text connections. I'm sorry I forgot to add the link spot, so it should be there now. Please upload your guided notes. There will be a quiz posted very shortly after class that just covers, obviously, this week's content. I pushed out the discussion board because I actually want to tie it into something we're talking about next week, so don't worry about that. It may be listed somewhere, but it's not something you need to worry about right now. And then just keep in mind that children's literature review is due here at the beginning of October. And believe it or not, it's already the 24th. And so, September is almost over. So we are truly heading into fall now, which just seems strange, doesn't it? So that is the plan. That is all I need you for today. So I will plan to see you again next week, and we'll get to talk more about strategies for little infants and toddlers. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Yeah.
The only one on the guided notes that we don't have is the second one for number 10.
And I don't have them in front of me. What does it say?
Listen to the speech of others in their blank and community.
I think it's just in their home and community. Okay.
And the discussion board isn't due on the 28th anymore then?
It is not. Nope.
Alrighty, thank you.
Are you going to post the assignment for the children's literature review? Because right now it's still closed.
Oh, well, yes, then I definitely should do that. I've shown it to you, though, right? I apologize. I just must not have hit.
Yeah, the rubric is at the top of the modules, but the actual to submit it is closed right now.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll fix that right after our class.
I think the text connections for number 4 is also closed right now.
Oh, that's very helpful for you, isn't it? Wow.
We only have to do either the Ohio Learning Standards or the running narrative, right?
That's correct. Yes, you can do both, or you can just choose one or the other.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you going to post the guided notes assignment too? Because I don't think that's up either.
Yeah, I'll look at what the problem is as soon as we're done with class. I thought I checked everything yesterday, but there's a zillion little places you have to make sure it's got the little green button. So
Text connections for number 4 is open.
okay, great. Yep, I will check into all of that for you.
So it says the standard assignment's due today, but the NIC assignment's due tomorrow.
Oh, it's just I'll put it to the end of this week. It's not. It's
okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No consequence. All right. Anything else, guys? All right. Have a great rest of the week and a good weekend. Bye.
Here's anything that you know, on to waste it. Here's anything that you know, on to waste it. Is it a thing that I can be enough? Arms are wasted. And the crazy thing that I can be enough. Arms are wasted. Give me my heart, but I just fuck it up. Crazy thing that I can be.
protests have just been declared a riot. They're lighting buildings on fire, and a group of police officers just got. Guys, the Portland protests have just been declared a riot. They're lighting buildings on. Can we switch the language? I didn't get a stimulus check or that 10K loan. I lost my. No offense, but all Republican people. I found this page that's like just Republican girls supporting Trump. Why do they all have pink blonde hair that sticks straight? No offense, but all Republican people. I found this page that's like just Republican girls. I've gotten this comment so many times, and people don't understand that the more you wash your hair, the more oily it's going to get. In order for this to not happen, you need to stop washing your hair. Literally, it sounds counterproductive, but it's not. My hair looks oily, it's actually clean. I just cleaned it last night. Actually, it was yesterday morning, but I've showered like 4 times since then because I'm like sick, so I can steam. Anyway, what you need to do is you probably wash your hair once every day. So from now on, stop doing that. Wash it every other day for like 2 or 3 weeks. Your hair is going to be oily, but by extending the time from washing your hair will realize that it doesn't have to get oily so quick. Then after a few weeks, when your hair is used to that, extend it longer. Go a day and a half or go 2 days. Be brave, okay? Your hair will be oily for a good week, but after that week is up, your hair will be like, all right, I don't have to produce as much oil anymore, and it will stop doing that. I can go nearly a week and my hair will not get oily, and I used to be just like you, to stop washing it every day. I've gotten this comment so many times, and people don't know what. So really, there's women love their husbands. Husbands. I do have a teenager on TikTok encouraging divorce. There's something bad. Okay. Hey. Hey, guys. You think fast? Oh, sorry, kids. Hey. I will always wait for my crocs. That is the only reason I swear that he decided to come with me to pick up the food. Just so you can embarrass me. He'd love it. I will always wait for my crocs. About you, it's like an addiction, hit me with your shine. I've got no reason to doubt you. Certain things
Keep coming back, yeah. Keep running round, 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 round my head.